This is my office. This is where I work.
I think it was 2 years in February I quit my job. Always worked since the day I left school. I was trained to be an accountant, so I was 1 year off being a fully qualified accountant when I decided to stop doing my studying and use that time to practice more with my darts. So I was still working.
Before the bright lights, roaring crowds, and six-figure paychecks, most of the world's top darts players were just like us. They scrubbed dishes, tiled bathrooms, chased cows across muddy fields. One even stacked supermarket shelves at night, then faced off at the alley pally by day. And another, he was fixing fences when he met his future wife. Now she styles his mohawk before every match. It sounds unreal, but it's all true, because before darts was a path to millions, it was a side hustle, squeezed in after long shifts and exhausting day jobs. But some of these stories aren't just surprising, they're downright insane, like the player who tiled a football legend's bathroom, or the one who worked on an aubergine farm while climbing the ranks of the PDC. And wait until you hear who nearly gave it all up to become a plumber. These aren't just throwback stories, they're the gritty, unpredictable origins behind today's most iconic players. Let's rewind the clock, because what these darts legends were doing before they hit the big stage will blow your mind. Before he became a darts icon and stacked up over £8.5 million in prize money, Michael van Gerwen was laying tiles in the Netherlands, literally. One of his clients? None other than Dutch football legend Dennis Bergkamp. Just picture that, one of the greatest dart players of all time, grouting the bathroom of a Premier League superstar. Today, he throws perfect 180s. Back then, he was making sure the grout lines were straight. And then there's Peter Wright, known worldwide for his explosive mohawk and even wilder walk-ons. But his story starts with something far more humble, scrubbing pots at a holiday camp just trying to make ends meet. That's actually where he met his wife, Joanne, who was working as a waitress at the time. Later, he'd fix windows and fences to get by. Today, he's a world champion. Back then, he was patching up fences with one hand and dreaming big with the other. Gary Anderson's journey took patience. For 20 years, he crafted marble fireplaces in Edinburgh, a physically demanding job that required intense focus and steady hands, the same qualities that would later define his darting career. It wasn't glamorous, but it built the mental toughness he now brings to every match. Meanwhile, Jose de Sousa, a soft-spoken Portuguese powerhouse, was installing kitchens and fitting cabinets, not by choice, but because his boss only let him play darts after hours. Imagine having championship talent, but needing permission to leave work early just to compete. These weren't overnight success stories, these were players working real jobs, getting their hands dirty, and still grinding after hours at the Oki. But for some of them, quitting the job meant betting it all on darts, with no safety net. Quitting a steady job is one thing. Quitting when you've barely got a few grand to your name, that's something else entirely. In 2018, Nathan Aspinall stared at his bank balance, just £2,000. That was it. No sponsorship deals, no guarantees, just raw belief. Most people would have played it safe. He didn't. He quit his job as an accountant, chased the dream full-time, and less than a year later, he lifted the UK Open Trophy, one of the boldest all-in moves the sport's ever seen, and it paid off in full. Rob Cross, better known now as Voltage, made an even faster climb. Just before exploding onto the scene as a world champion, he was wiring houses in Hastings, working as a full-time electrician. There was no big team behind him, just talent, timing, and enough nerve to drop it all and go pro. Within months, he shocked the world and rewrote his future. Danny Noppert did the unthinkable too. In late 2017, just weeks before officially stepping into the PDC spotlight, he quit his job. No fallback, no backup plan, just darts. It was a risky move, but it marked the beginning of a career that would soon have him standing shoulder to shoulder with the best. And then there's Callan Ridds. He didn't just change careers, he gave up a dream. For years he trained as a pro BMX rider until one brutal crash shattered that path. With a broken foot and nothing but downtime, he picked up a set of darts. That injury? It wasn't a setback, it was a pivot. These weren't just career changes, these were leaps of faith, made without a safety net, and in some cases, they left behind not just jobs but entire sports. Before he ever stepped on a dart stage, Gerwyn Price was chasing down opponents on the rugby field. Playing for teams like Neath and the Glasgow Warriors, he was a professional rugby player, but barely earning £500 a week. That's less than he now makes from a single leg of darts. He traded tackles for trebles and found success in a sport no one expected. Mervyn King dreamed bigger than just the Oki. As a teenager, he was speeding through amateur race car circuits, winning 2 of his first 3 races in an Alfa Romeo. The talent was there. The money? Not so much. Racing costs forced him to walk away. During the COVID lockdown, he was back behind the wheel, not racing but delivering packages in an Amazon van for £120 a day. From burning rubber to delivering results on the dartboard, his journey's been anything but ordinary. And then there's Madar's Razma, Latvia's top darts export. His path could have been professional handball or running his own business. He did both for a while, juggling travel, management and training, but in the end, darts won out and he stepped away from it all to give the sport his full focus. 3 athletes, 3 entirely different sports, but they all ended up at the same destination, the world stage. And if you think switching from sports was tough, wait until you see what some of these players had to endure just to survive. Some players didn't switch careers with a victory speech. They climbed slowly, juggling day jobs and dartboards, working themselves to the bone just to stay in the game. Luke Humphreys knows that grind well. Long before the lights of Alexandra Palace, he was hammering nails on rooftops in Newbury. Roofing by day, practicing darts by night. No shortcuts, no sponsors, just repetition, dedication, and calloused hands. Johnny Clayton took it even further. Even after winning major tournaments, he kept working as a plasterer for his local council. While others were booking exhibitions and signing endorsement deals, Johnny was still smoothing walls in Carmarthenshire. Why? Because for him, success didn't mean comfort, it meant staying grounded. James Wade, known for his precision on stage, is just as skilled under the hood. A trained mechanic, he stepped up during the COVID lockdown, not for darts, but for people. He spent those months repairing cars for NHS workers, helping key staff stay mobile while the world was standing still. A quiet act of service from a man who rarely grabs headlines outside the sport. Then there's Chris Dobie, who used to spend 12-hour shifts setting up traffic cones on motorways in the freezing northeast, a job most wouldn't last a week in, but he stuck with it until darts gave him a way out. These weren't just jobs, they were tests of endurance, and every one of them built the mental toughness these players now use under pressure. And some, they didn't just work long hours, they worked hard jobs with almost no reward, just a hope that someday things would flip. At the bottom of the pro circuit, darts isn't glamorous. The money's low, the hours long, and the success rate brutal. But that didn't stop them. Dirk van Duivenbode is a rising name in darts, but he still works 32 hours a week on an aubergine farm in the Netherlands. No, really, he manages bookkeeping and admin by day, then steps onto international stages by night. Daytime spreadsheets, nighttime spotlights. Dimitri van den Berg went from stacking shelves in a supermarket to stacking trophies. While his classmates were out partying, he was working night shifts and squeezing in practice wherever he could. Nothing flashy, just steady, relentless work. Ryan Searle was a window cleaner, balancing on ladders and scrubbing glass with the same focus he now brings to the Oki. His breakthrough didn't come until after he earned his PDC Tour card in 2017. Before that, he was literally cleaning up, just not on the scoreboard. And Ross Smith, he knew roads better than most. As an HGV driver, he spent countless hours behind the wheel, hauling freight and thinking about treble 20s. It wasn't glamorous and it certainly wasn't profitable, but it gave him time to dream. In 2017, he hung up the keys and drove straight into pro darts. None of them had guarantees, no agents, no contracts, just high hopes and low paychecks until everything changed. But for others, change almost didn't come at all. Not every success story follows a straight line. Some players were right on the edge, mentally, financially, even physically. And for a few, darts was almost a dream they walked away from. Stephen Bunting had a rough stretch between 2016 and 2017. His form dipped, the win stopped coming, and so did the confidence. He admitted he seriously considered quitting darts altogether and going back to a regular 9-to-5 job. Imagine that, just 1 year away from disappearing from the sport completely. But he didn't quit, he held on, and today he's back competing among the best. Daryl Gurney had his own battle as a plumber. The job was grueling. Heavy lifting all day left his arms shot by the time he got to the practice board. The pain made it nearly impossible to perform at a high level. In the end, it wasn't a coach or manager who told him to quit, it was his body. And when he left plumbing behind, he finally unlocked his full potential. Some stories stay a little more mysterious, like Vincent van der Voort. No one really knows what job he had before darts, but we do know this. Today, he owns a dart shop in the Netherlands, run by his wife and son. From player to businessman, he never left the sport. He just reshaped his place in it. Martin Schindler was even closer to the action, just not as a player. As a steward for PDC Europe, he was the guy helping run the events, escorting pros to the stage, organizing logistics. No one guessed he'd go from working behind the scenes to competing on that very stage, but he did. Each of these players could have walked away, but they didn't. They stuck around, and what they built next would surprise everyone. Sometimes greatness comes from the most unexpected places. Players who seemed like long shots, too busy, too old, too far removed, ended up rewriting what it means to be a professional. Simon Whitlock, the wizard, started out laying bricks with his dad in Australia. Construction wasn't just a job, it was a daily battle with heat, dust, and exhaustion. But that grit stuck with him. He brought it to every match, and he's been building wins ever since. Alan Suter might just have the most stacked resume in darts. An army veteran, he toured 30 countries, including Kosovo, right after its liberation. Today, he's a firefighter, a darts academy mentor, and even a guide dog carer, all while still competing at the highest level. Let that sink in. This man saves lives by day and throws darts by night. William O'Connor worked as a carpenter in the small town of Capamore until 2019, when he finally went full-time. Every bit of his journey was hands-on, carving wood by day, carving out wins by night. And Ian White was a process leader at an aluminum factory before being made redundant in 2008. That setback became a turning point. With no job to fall back on, he went all in on darts, and he's stayed there ever since. These weren't the players with elite training or early fame. They were the ones who just kept showing up until the world finally noticed. So many fans only see the walk-ons, the bright lights, and the perfect throws. But now you've seen what most never do. The real lives behind the players, the kitchens, the rooftops, the farms, the traffic cones. These weren't side gigs, they were survival, and every one of them tells a story of hustle, risk, and raw belief. Some quit their jobs with nothing, some held onto them long after the trophies came, others nearly walked away forever. But what connects them all is this: none of them were handed anything. They weren't born into darts fame, they built it brick by brick, shift by shift, match by match. Because in the world of darts, it's not just about hitting treble 20s, it's about grinding through real life and still believing you can rise above it. So the next time you watch someone hit a perfect 180, just remember, behind that throw is a story of a kitchen fitter, a bricklayer, a delivery driver, or a soldier. Every legend on that stage started somewhere unexpected. Now it's your turn. Which job surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. Smash that like if you learned something new, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story from the other side of the ocean. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep aiming high.